My name is Clyburn. I'm a writer, producer, actor, and director of the production Down by the Hudson, A Love Story for the Soul. And I've been writing for over 15, 20 years. I've been doing stage plays. This year makes 7 years. So, and I thank God for that. Well, I always wanted to do a love story, always. But I wanted to do it in a gospel form, because I didn't want to, be Hollywood and sell sex, So I said, well, what way could I do a love story, but a gospel love story? So, the Spirit, through the Holy Spirit, allowed me to do that. So I wanted to kind of write about my experience and other people's experience at the same time, and just put it all in one. So basically, the Down by the Hudson, A Love Story for the Soul, talks about the ups and downs of relationships before you actually find that right one that God brings you to brings you together. It's based on two people. It's based on a character named Shaquan Lamar Ellis, and it's based on a woman named Belinda Monique Dreyford. Now, they are in relationships prior to them meeting, and because they had a bad breakup, God led them two together. So I won't kind of go into detail on that because I want the audience to really see what it was like for them to be involved in other relationships before God brought them together. And basically the play deals with real life issues. Because we've done this play in New York City, of course, in my hometown, Patterson. We've taken on the road to Washington, D.C., and everywhere that we've been blessed to perform this play, people have always said that, that story was me. You sure you didn't write about me? But it's a story that everybody can relate to, because we talk about forgiveness in this play. We talk about how a lot of times when relationships, when people break up in a relationship, a lot of times they'll get involved with somebody else, but most of the time it's a rebound. They haven't really truly let go of their ex. So we touch on that in the play about honesty, communication. What do you do when you in a bad relationship or when you break up? We deal with things like counseling. We deal with things like love. What is real love in a relationship? So and we just do it in all aspects, and everybody's loved it. I mean, we've been blessed to still perform it. People just want to come out and see it every time we do it. And, again, it's what everybody can relate to. Actually, it was inspired mostly by my own events, and a little bit about somebody else as well, too. So I just took, that my experience along with a couple other people experiences and just put them together. My advice is always turn to God, number one. That's, I talk about honesty, communication and all, but first and foremost, always turn to God. Especially, if you get out of a long-term relationship, especially if you come out of a bad breakup, especially if you're heartbroken, and because a lot of people don't know how to deal with a breakup. Like I said, a lot of times people might get with somebody else, but that's just a rebound. But always turn to God first. That's number one, And once you turn to God and then you pray about it, seek yourself. Take time for you. Step back and see, well, what did I do wrong, or what can I do to improve me? Rather than to always look at the other person's faults. You can do that too, but always make sure you examine yourself. Take your time and just, be honest and communicate. Always be honest, because a lot of times when we meet somebody in a relationship, whether it's older, especially for the younger couples, that's why it's so important especially for the young couples who think they know what love is, to see this play. Some have and they love it, but a whole lot more needs to see it. Because the older generation, like me and older, You know, a lot of them can relate to that. They understand. But even sometimes the older generation sometimes don't really understand what God requires for us to be in a committed relationship. You know what I mean? And that's when God brings the man a help meet, like it says in the book of Genesis. You know, and that help meet, that woman helps complete the man. You know, that's like my message for the older generation and for the younger generation as well too. You know, be honest. You know, when you first meeting somebody. You know whether we all have bad habits. You know, I mean, just be honest, because a lot of times we put on a front because we want to impress, and then months down the line we're like, oh, okay, I didn't know you did this, I didn't know you did that, I don't like this, I don't like that. Be honest, be open, be communicative, but always turn to God first. Casting was a blessing because I didn't know who I would get to play the main two characters, which is always the toughest part, because this play is, it entails a lot of detail. You know, it entails a lot of details, and it's not always easy to get main characters. So my main characters were John Ginn, Taisha Hilbert. Now Taisha Hilbert has done a lot of, like productions. Nothing too big, but she's always done a lot of local stuff. Video, go straight to video. John Ginn, he just basically got into this about maybe 4 years ago, but he's an amazing. But unfortunately, they're not with us anymore. This time around, the main characters are going to be myself, because I'm also an actor as well. I'll be playing Shaquan Lamar Ellis. Another lady will be playing Belinda, Monique Drayford. Her name is Jeanette Pierce. Very, very talented. She's very challenging, and like you said, we're not widely known, but we're locally known. Locally known, and that's good for me, because there's people that's willing to learn all the time, and it's hard to get it's hard in the entertainment business. It's very hard. So when we have local people that are looking to get their foot into the door, sometimes I find them and they find me. And I've done a lot of plays in churches, so I was able to find most of my cast in churches. Like Jeanette Pierce and myself, we go to the same church. She saw another play that I performed called Black on Black Crime, and she saw that and loved it. Was like, this is something I really want to do. And sometimes people say they want to do it, but don't understand the work that it involves. So I said, well, listen, if you're not serious, please don't waste my time. I won't waste your time. But if you're serious, this is the place to learn. We can grow, and we can do this. And she's been very serious. She's also played other roles in this play. She played another character named Cheryl that a lot of people can relate to. She's done a really good job. But that role really belongs to Nicole Thompson. She just had a newborn baby. She'll be back with us within another 2 months. She's a very, very great actress. Her and I used to go to another church when I first started out doing stage plays. So that's how we hooked up. And other people like Lamar Williams. He also plays a character named Chris. I did my second play, A Woman's Temple, and he came to one of the rehearsals, and he saw it and was like, hey, I can really do this. I said, you sure? He said, yeah. So he's been with me ever since. He's been with me over 5 years. Another guy who's been with me for over 5 years, his name is Richard. Richard, they call him Sir Rich, or Richard Hurd. He's a veteran. I mean, he takes his craft very seriously. I mean, he's been up and down the East Coast doing poetry, theater. He also writes and directs too, and he's very talented. I mean, if you want anybody on your production team, you want Richard Surridge Hurd on your production team, because he's a veteran, and he makes everybody around him better. So you always need, even though everybody else may not be a veteran, but you always need a veteran or two in your production, because he also helps me teach everybody around and help everybody grow. And he helps me as well too, you know. So he's definitely a blessing to have in the cast. And I met him through a friend of a friend who was also writing plays, and I was looking for a particular character, and they referred me to him. And he's from the city of Newark, by the way. And I called him up, and we had lunch at Jay's, you know, when Jay's was open, and from there, you know, we just been good friends, and you know, we've just been making history slowly but surely. But so that's basically how I meet my cast, you know, through word of a friend, or through churches, or you know, people come out and see the play, and then they come up to me, you know, and say, hey, you know, oh, my daughter or such act, or I've been acting, or I want to get back into theater, you know. So that's basically how I meet them. So that's what's been a blessing about this, because every time we perform in different places, people have been interested, you know, and that's how basically, you know, I do my cast. It has a future. It has a future, and we haven't even touched the surface with this production. But I'll share a testimony with you. We did this play in Passaic, New Jersey, and there was a marriage couple that was there, older couple, and didn't know this. Emailed me, somebody shared this with me and said, hey, you know, there was a marriage couple at your play. Their marriage had kind of been on the rocks for some time. They hadn't been speaking, so they were separated basically, you know. But because they saw this play, they decided to give their marriage, you know, a shot, or they decided to communicate and you know, make it work. How they doing now? This is March of last year. How they doing now? I have no idea. But when they shared that testimony with me, it was all praise due to God. You know, I just thank God for allowing Him to use me to write this production and to be a blessing to others. So the future of this play is prominent, because it's a blessing for others. This play makes people think. You know what I mean? It makes them think like, wow, you know, I never thought about it like this, and wow, you know, he's talking real life. Because we also, not only do we put on the show, but we get the audience involved too. We make them feel like they're there, or they're going through that. So the future of this production is promising, but we keep, you know, putting God first, and in the midst of this production, so that, you know, it can be a blessing to other people through Christ. Call me at 973-653-9550, or they can call 347-805-8576, or they can contact me on Facebook. You're really doing yourself a disservice if you don't see it, you know, because it's something that everybody can relate to, even though we have an all African American cast. But at the same time, this is something that all races and cultures can relate to. All races and cultures.